So a lot of you guys have been requesting this video, so here it is. If you guys are new here, my name is Adriano and I've been skateboarding and training for almost 20 years now. I'm 33 years old now and I try and skate about 4 or 5 days a week, and that puts a lot of strain on the body, right? So if you're trying to skate and feel good and not always be in pain, for example, for me, I've dealt with like patellar tendonitis, so pain in the front of the knee. I've dealt with shoulder issues. I've dealt with tight quads or like groin injuries. So a lot of these exercises are focused around helping stretch and also build strength around those pain points. So without further ado, here are the stretches and exercises that I go through almost on a daily basis before I skate. All right, so you're gonna need a few things, and I highly recommend getting yourself a foam roller and a mat if you're on hard floor. If not, you could use carpet. That's cool too. And you're also going to want to get yourself a band here. Something that's not too hard of resistance, but enough to make it difficult. As well as if you can get your hands on one of these bands that's kind of long and isn't attached on each end. This is going to be for ankle work, so to actually strengthen the muscles around your ankle. I've dealt with a lot of sprained ankles in the past, and doing these exercises helped tremendously. So I'll usually start off on the mat. I'll usually kind of just sit on my knees. If you can do this, if it doesn't hurt your ankles or your feet too much. I like doing this because it actually kind of warms up the ankles and also slightly stretches the quads. And if you could see here on the back, I'm actually stretching my foot as well. And I'll kind of start breathing, moving around. This helps stretch your quads. Kind of progressively go into this. If it hurts too much, don't push. You don't want to push too hard with this because you're still warming up, right? A lot of this is kind of freestyle too, kind of whatever feels good. I'm kind of stretching my neck here, playing around. And the next thing I do is called the cat-cow. So you're going to want to breathe and basically extend and stretch this part of the back here. And exhale, and then inhale and kind of almost arch your back like a cat, and then extend like a cow. That's why they call it a cat-cow. Funny name, but this helps a lot with stretching the back and warming up the back, and it's good for warming up. I'll also kind of step into, I'm not going to know the names for all of these stretches, but this really helps with your hamstrings. I'll kind of just like move around. I'll often kind of stretch one foot at a time. And sometimes I'll kind of just like stretch the hamstrings, go into a squat, and kind of repeat that motion back and forth. Sometimes I just like to sit in a squat, which is also really good for ankle mobility. It depends on the day. Not every stretch that I do is exactly the same. But yeah, let's get into the next one. So for this next stretch, you're going to need your foam roller and your mat. And what I typically do is I'll start off kind of like mid upper back. You want to be careful here because you have ribs that are attached to your rib cage, and then you have ones that are called floating ribs. So they're not actually coming fully around to your sternum. So those ones, you want to be careful when rolling the lower part of your back. You want to try and stay on actually the muscle part. So what I tend to do is start around mid back and kind of breathe through that and work my way up the vertebrae all the way to the top. Sometimes I'll kind of sit in it and breathe through it. Sometimes I'll kind of like roll back and forth, as you see here. And remember to breathe the whole time. It's super, super important. You don't want to kind of lock up and get stiff. As you see here, I'm about to point, to the part of the back. So oftentimes I find when I have really tight quads, it's super important to roll the lower part of your back here, as I'm doing in this in the video here. This is going to help relieve a lot of tension. It feels really good as well. This is a lifesaver. Before I started foam rolling the lower part of my back, I used to have a lot of issues with my quads being too tight. Oddly enough, you wouldn't think that your quads have anything to do with your lower back, but the body is fully, it's all connected, right? So it's super important that you're in tune and in balance with not only your back and your quads, your hamstrings, your upper body, everything is connected. So making sure that you're strengthening your whole body, but also making sure that you're mobile and flexible with your whole body. But yeah, let's get into the next one. Obviously, I'm trying to kind of rip through these and make sure that I'm covering everything. But I spend a couple minutes on each of these exercises. Some of them I do for reps, and I'll often kind of like cycle through different ones and come back to them. For this one, I'm actually just warming up the shoulders. Kind of, like I said, I don't know the names to these, but you can kind of just follow along. Feel free to pause at any time and kind of take note of this. It's super important to warm up the shoulders because you'd be surprised how often you use your shoulders when skating, especially like you're ollieing your shoulders, everything is kind of flailing around. So it's super easy to kind of injure a shoulder while just like tossing it around, right? So making sure to stretch and warm up the shoulders. I tend to do these kind of like circular movements. I'll do them forwards and I'll also do them backwards. And then after I've warmed them up, I'll then go and stretch them like this. So put your hand against the wall upside down. If you can do this, you might feel a bit of pain kind of in your bicep, maybe in your forearms, but you want to basically, if it's too hard, see this I'm altering the position there where I'm putting my hand not fully turned around. It won't hurt as much if it is hurting or pinching on your bicep or your shoulder. So basically holding that, breathing through it on both sides. I'll also stretch my chest. I tend to get a tight chest as well. It's all connected, right? So stretching the chest, breathing through it. I don't try and kind of push it too far. You want to kind of listen to your body. Don't push too hard. Remember to breathe. And I'll sometimes kind of just like bounce around in it. When I say bounce around, I mean like I won't like push and like try and hold it as long as possible. I'll kind of like move around in it, especially if you're not fully warmed up. You don't want to stretch your muscles too hard, if that makes sense. All right, next one. So rolling out your quads is super important. I like to kind of get the full range of the quads. So I'll start all the way like to where like my quad meets the top of my knee, and I'll go all the way up to my hips. And I'll try, and the quadricep is a muscle that actually is made up of 4 different muscles in the front of your leg. And it's important to try and hit all of them if you can. So not only kind of stay straight on your foam roller, but go to the side as well. Try and hit the side of it. I'll often start with both legs because it's less pressure on the legs and isn't as hard. And then I'll tend to kind of put more weight on one leg, trying to go to each side of it, and then move to the other leg, try and put your weight on each side of that as well, if that makes sense. And this is super important because as skaters, especially your dominant leg, so if you're regular, it's going to be your left leg that oftentimes is the one that gets overworked from always kind of doing a one leg squat pushing. And then here you can see I'm rolling out my hamstrings. Obviously super important to roll out your hamstrings. And then from there, I'll move into my calves. It's important, obviously, to roll out your calves. And then I bring the foam roller up to my glutes, cross my leg over. And this is going to kind of get the outside of your glutes, which is really good to roll through. And you want to do that on both sides for a couple minutes on each side until you're ready to move on to the next one. All right, let's get into this ankle exercise that I was talking about. So my physiotherapist gave me this exercise and it's worked quite well. You want to get that open band, put it around one leg and the other, as you see here. And you're basically just kind of like flexing it in and then out, almost like a kickflip motion. And you want to do, you're going to feel it right there on kind of the outside of that muscle. And that's what's going to help strengthen that muscle in order for it to kind of prevent being able to roll over. And it's really good warm up as well for just like kick flips. I've found that as I've been doing these, I'm getting a lot less ankle rolls and my kick flips feel a lot better right out the gate. I don't feel like I'm having to warm up as much before I start doing flip tricks. I step on the board and I feel like I'm able to kick flip a lot sooner. So you want to do about 3 sets of 10 on each side before you go and skate. It's super important. This one has helped me a lot. So next one is getting that other band you got. This one is really good for your glutes. So for me, I've been dealing with a lot of patellar tendonitis. So patellar is the front kind of bottom part of your knee. I get this like sharp pain. And my physio is basically giving me a bunch of exercises to strengthen my glutes because my quads were overcompensating. My glutes were not strong enough. So a lot of the exercises I'm doing are kind of like booty band kind of style workouts. And it's actually helped tremendously. So this is one of them. It doesn't look like much, but you're actually going to feel quite a bit of a burn. It feels awkward to do, but you're kind of just taking like side steps forward and backwards. And I usually do as many reps as possible till failure. So till failure means kind of like until it burns so much that it's kind of uncomfortable. So sometimes, if that doesn't resonate with you, then try and just do it for reps. So do like 10 to 20 reps, take a break, maybe do a different exercise, and then come back to it 10 to 20 reps. Yeah, that one is super good. Oh, apparently I'm decided to sweep. I filmed this stretching video probably like 5 months ago, and I'm finally getting around to making the audio for it. But yeah, I'm excited to share this one with you guys. Let's get to the next one. All right, so this next one, you're gonna want to lie on your side, put that band right above your knees, the bottom of your legs, bottom of your quads, and basically you're gonna want to open up your legs in this fashion here. You can also do this without a band and achieve the same results, especially if you have an injury. This is actually a good starting point to do this without a band. And the same thing with this. You want to try and get about 3 sets of 10 on each side. So as you saw there, I flipped around, and you're going to feel that kind of burn on the outside of your glutes here. As skaters, like I said, we tend to use our quads a lot, so it's super important to strengthen your posterior chain, so the back part of your body, your glutes, your hamstrings, your back, to help compensate for those quads being overworked. All right, so the next one here is the band between your legs, similar to the one before, but you're just doing squats, essentially, up and down. And what's important about doing squats with a band, or rather what it triggers, is actually your glutes again. So it makes sure to focus on pushing your knees out, make sure they're not kind of caving in. Because that band is there, it helps you kind of push out and use your glutes in that squat. Because a lot of people tend to not activate their glutes when squatting. So super important. Same thing, do about 10 reps for about 3 sets. Comment below, guys, if you do some of these exercises yourself. For me, I found that they're lifesavers. These aren't the only exercise that I do. This is just my kind of stretch warm up before I actually do a workout. I tend to train about 4 days a week. And I'm typically doing more kind of strength training, body weight training that lasts about 45 minutes. And my kind of stretch mobility work that you're seeing here is typically about 25 minutes before. So my workouts are usually about an hour. But yeah, let's get into the next one here. So this next one here, putting the band around the bottom of your legs, just above your ankles, and you're kind of just resting on one leg and pushing out. Make sure to do this slowly and concentrated. Same thing, this is just activating the outside part of your glute, which is super important. So same thing with this, 3 sets of 10, and that should do it. All right, this next one is really good as well. Similar to what I was doing before with stretching my hamstrings, but moving around. We're going to go into what's called a pigeon pose in yoga. This one is super good for stretching that outer part of the glute that we were just working on. I like to do it at the end of all these kind of like banded style workouts, because you're just like kind of just training them, so it's good to stretch them afterwards. So what I like to do is actually see how my leg is perpendicular with my body here. So you want to make sure you're trying to push out that leg as perpendicular as possible. You don't want to be parallel, which is the easier way to do it. You're not going to feel as good of a stretch. It's not going to be as effective. If you're able to kind of stand up and breathe into it, you should feel that stretch on the outer part of the glute, similar to how you were feeling it with the band. I'm also just stretching there. Sometimes it feels good to just stretch that lower back like that. This is a good one. I like doing this after a session. So try and do that on both sides. And I usually try and hold them for as long as I can, usually like 30 seconds to a minute on each side. Sometimes I'll even repeat it. Those are my kind of stretches, mobility exercises that I've kind of picked up along the way throughout the years. I've dealt with a lot of kind of injuries and quad pain, lower back pain, and knee pains over the years. And from my experience, going to physio is the most important thing to do, because they can get you on kind of a program that's catered to help you strengthen the things that are weak in your current kind of system. Because a lot of the times when we overwork a certain thing, that certain muscle can't take that load, so other parts overcompensate, and then you're left with an injury or a pain. So it's super important to stay on top of stretches, strength training, and all of that. So this has helped me quite a bit. I know as skaters, it's not always easy to want to get in the gym or get a workout in at home before skating, but I'm telling you, if you're trying to skate for a long time and you love it just as much as I do, I know that I want to be skating at 50, 60 years old. So for me, it's super important to stay strong and feel good on the board. Because I mean, I've gone through the pain of skating where you're just like skating through pain every day. It's like hard to get out of bed because like you're so sore, and it just sucks. And ever since I started this like kind of program specific to combating, I guess, these inefficiencies in my body, I found that I feel a lot better on the board. I wake up in the morning not as sore. I'm not as sore when I start skating. So yeah, it's helped me quite a bit. That's it. Hope you guys got something out of this video and you enjoyed it. I know it's long overdue, but it is what it is. Anyways, take it easy, guys, and we'll catch you on the next video. Peace.